This is Solodan. He is adventuring throughout the World of Warcraft without trading, grouping, or any other outside help. With World of Warcraft scaling dungeons up to specific levels, Solodan will be locking his level to avoid overleveling until all dungeons and raids, if possible, are cleared. Currently we are locked at level 30, which is the cap for all Classic, Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King content. However, that does not restrict us from venturing to other expansions to help us in our quest for power. Last time, we finished up the herbalism and alchemy grind. So today, it is time to dig into a new profession. And you all guessed it, next up is Enchanting. The reason for this is simple. Enchants are strong buffs you can add to your gear and weapons permanently. And it gives all of this gear in my inventory some purpose. So without further ado, it is time to say goodbye to all this gear clogging my inventory. Ah, much better. Before we look into enchanting further, there is one final thing I would like to do after the alchemy grind, and that is a quick DPS test. So I head over to the nearest dummies and decide to do a simple raw damage test. Without a pot first, where my damage ranges around 260 per hit, and after using a potion, where the damage jumps up to about 310 per hit. So about a 20% DPS increase inside my 25-second potion window. And that is before any flasks and buffs. So, actually quite nice. Now, the agility pots, I believe these may be even more powerful. The reason for thinking this is that agility weapons give a lot less agility than caster weapons give intellect. I'm guessing this has something to do with agility scaling better, and if so, that means that the agility pot, which gives the same amount of agility as intellect pots give intellect, should have more impact on my DPS. But after some testing, it is about the same, as Shred's damage sits around 255 mark without a potion and jumps up to 315 with the agility potion. So much for my theory. But this does show that the pots are pretty decent for an opening burst. Let's get into enchanting. And I did not show this for alchemy, but this time I wanted to show how I tackle these profession grinds. First up, I go to each expansion's trainer to learn the respective enchanting method. For Outland, we head to Shotroth, Old Dalaran for Lich King Enchanting, the Jade Forest for Mist of Pandaria, Ashran for Warded Sadrit. Wait, why can I not learn Enchanting here? I'll deal with this later. Middle-aged Dalaran for Legion, Zuldazar for BFA, Oribos for Shadowlands, and lastly we head to Valdraken for Dragonflight Enchanting. And then we head back to Ashran after realizing you don't train, but you buy Trainer Enchanting. What a weird expansion that was. With all the enchantings learned, I then go and sit in a quiet spot and go through every single recipe and note down any noteworthy ones. The noteworthy ones are usually the highest boost for the slot in specific stats, or any special effects which may go all wacky with scaling. The first thing to note is that Dragonflight Enchanting is off the table, as it requires item level 180 plus items, which I don't have access to. Now, for Shadowlands, this will probably... wait, level 10? And I can enchant my boots with 40 agility? If this is true, it definitely seems like they want people, including the developers, to forget about Shadowlands. And after looking through all the possible enchants, one thing is clear. If these stats are real for the Shadowlands enchants, there are not many others worth going for. Time to go to the non-existent expansion. Skipping the intro quests as per usual, we head to Oribos to listen to some retcon lore, before being sent off to Bastion for the real first arc of the story. About halfway through the zone, I get the greens I need to disenchant and head back to Oribos to try out some of this enchanting. And as I am about to get plus 27 agility on my boots, my agility did not increase. I look over to the enchant and it actually only gives plus 2 agility and requires level 50. Now Blizzard, I know you don't like this expansion, but can you please update the tooltips? That would be very helpful. I guess we will have to experiment with all past expansions, so off to Zuldazar to see if BFA Enchanting works. And BFA Enchanting does work, although the numbers are once again much lower than advertised. This will probably mean we will have to go by trial and error to find out which enchants give the highest numbers. So without further ado, it is grinding time. And while grinding in Zuldazar, I come across this impossible quest. And I have no clue why, but this is just plain impossible. Just look at this. I spent 15 minutes of my life trying to beat this quest and nothing! Nothing! Hey guys, future me here. I actually managed to do this quest. There's just some very janky things happening with Chromie time, so If you have this problem and you get one-shot by this dino, just change over your chromie time and you should be a-okay. Bye-bye. The questing continues for a while after that, gathering greens and blues along the way, but I think it is time to mix it up a bit. So let's talk about my latest masterpiece. You see, there are 2 gear slots, which many people have claimed to be some of the most impactful gear slots ever. These items will make even the sanest DPSers baby rage when they lose the roll for one of these to someone's 17th alt. I am of course talking about trinkets. Each character has 2 slots for trinkets, and trinkets are items which usually house special effects. Either you can choose when the effect happens, usually referred to as an unused trinket, or the effect may happen randomly, referred to as procs. If a trinket just has stats and no effects, they can be referred to as stat sticks. Now, if you want to have a guess how many trinkets I have available to me just through dungeons, well, come on, type your comment. I'm waiting. And while we're waiting, I am now also streaming some of the progress on Solodan every Tuesday, a bit after 4 PM GMT, and every Saturday most of the day. So tune in when you're bored. Well, I didn't know how many there were, so I made this silly spreadsheet, listing each dungeon trinket available to me as a druid, what their effects and their stats are, and how much I want the trinket, with a 5 being very much and a 0 being not at all. Whether I want them is based on how strong they seem, or a variety of other reasons, like the Culturan Cannonball Runner because I think double cannon trinkets sounds like the bomb. Okay then. Now for the answer to my question, there are 193 trinkets available to me. So if you guessed that, you win absolutely nothing, but I do appreciate that you commented. And as I need some more gear to level my enchanting as well, I may as well hunt some of these down during the enchanting grind. That brings us initially to 3 trinkets on my most wanted list. Harlan's Loaded Dice from Freehold, the Culturan Cannonball Runner from Dagor, and Lady Waycrest's Music Box from Waycrest Manor. So I make my way to Freehold to go after Harlan's Loaded Dice first. These dice can proc random secondary stats out of Haste, Grit and Mastery, but the trinket does not specify how much of each stat it gives, so consider me intrigued. And while I could skip all of the bosses, I still want to clear the place once before I farm one of the bosses for specific loot, so let's get into it. Sky Captain Crag does seemingly little damage, and with proper healing throughout the fight, I take him down with no issues. Off to the Council of Captains, the trio of pirates. Now, after doing the events, one of them owes me a favor and joins me for the fight, making it a fair 2v2. As long as I stay focused on dodging Eudora's shots, I should be fine. Oh no, Blackout Barrel. This will disorient me. Luckily for me, they start attacking the other captain as soon as I'm disoriented. And the barrel breaks in a few seconds, so as long as I stay healthy, this fight is easy peasy. Harlan Sweet's damage is quite low, so I make sure to root the ads when they spawn and dodge all of the attacks. And even though it takes a little while, Harlan goes down and rewards me with the trinket. Yes, I don't have to come back here anymore. Now there is one boss left, so after expertly catching a muddy pig and sending a demented mutant ninja turtle back to New York, we face off against Throwtag the Shark Puncher. His Tinder profile tells me he likes hitting hard and throwing sharks around, so with some proper kiting and healing, we successfully survive our first date. And after that lucky drop, we hold a short intermezzo of questing and enchanting to unlock some of the weapon enchants, before heading into Waycrest Manor for the 2 following drops, the Music Box Trinket and Lord Waycrest's Signet, as together they form a set, making the trinket proc more often. There is also the Balefire Branch Trinket, which I would like to add to my arsenal, so as per usual, let's do an initial run of the dungeon first to see how we get on. Before pulling the triads, I am contemplating a bit. How can I deal with the mind control? Can I line of sight? Can I avoid it somehow? Can I Oh, she's already down. They seemingly have no HP, and I phase her before the mind control is even cast. The other sisters don't really do much or anything threatening at all, so shortly after the triads fall. But then... the Soulbound Goliath. Plenty of Mythic Plusser's biggest nightmare boss. Multiple F tier grades on the tier lists. First, I was worried about his damage, but that turned out to be alright. And then it happened. Beware the thorns! As I sat there, stunned, I watched my health go down until finally my face was reunited with the floor. What are my options here, I thought. I can either DPS him down before the first thorns, but with 60k HP that seems like a rough ask. Or I can find a way around the thorns. First up, classic potions. Remember 2 of the potions I noted in the previous episode? The living action potion and the free action potion? Well, the living action potion breaks stuns and makes you immune to them for 3 seconds. And the free action potion does not break them, but it makes you immune for 30 seconds, potentially spanning 2 casts of Soul Thorns. I do not have free action potions yet, I've not been lucky with the recipe, but when trying with a living action potion, it does work on the stun. If reaction potions work, that means that I can at least DPS the boss for about 40 seconds. That's not nearly enough to get him down. Okay, next theory for now. Can I break the thorns myself? First thing I try is to spawn Maple, Birch and John as the thorns stun me, but they ignore their papa and go beat up the boss instead. Well, what about Starfall? And as I try Starfalling before the stun, the stars do actually damage the thorns while stunned. Unfortunately, 2 Starfalls don't do enough damage to break the thorns, but it is quite close in some cases, just a little bit extra would do. I also try Orbital Strike and manage to time the blast just right to break the thorns, but I was unable to replicate it reliably, and it's only available every 2 minutes, so it wouldn't really save me anyway. After a couple of attempts and tests, I leave it there for now, but I will be back. I just need a little bit more. After that disappointment, we easily take care of Ral, and even though we pray that the doors to the cellar would unlock, they don't, leaving me with no other option than to leave the dungeon with my tail between my legs. But I will be back. Defeated, I head over to BFA's last dungeon where I really want a trinket, albeit for the meme value. Dagor. The dungeon drops the Culturon Cannonball Runner, and as said before, 2 cannons are better than 1. We start off with the Sand Queen, a quite easy and straightforward boss. She ducks away sometimes, giving me good chances to heal, but aside from that I just make sure to avoid the traps as to not get stunned, and make my way inside the dungeon after she goes down. A bunch of really annoying stealth scene trash later, I get to Jess Holis. All of this boss's abilities can be line of sighted, so I have an easy time getting through phase 1. When he starts running away and opening jail cells, I make sure to focus down the ads before getting back to Jess, and finishing him off shortly after as well. Night King Valeri spawns barrels which she tries to blow up around the room, but we just ignore those and keep star surging her in the face until she goes down too. And lastly, Overseer Korgus. He manipulates the cannons around the battlefield to shoot at you while you are fighting him, and he fires a ton of area denial and spread mechanics at you. And let's just say when you are solo, spreading ain't all that hard. But there is one mechanic that breaks this fight for solo players. Deadeye. Regularly, Korgus will target a random player. Well, I guess that's me in this case. And channel a Deadeye shot at them, doing an average amount of damage. Now what's hard about that, you ask? It also leaves a debuff, increasing the damage taken from the next one by 500%. And it stacks. So basically I am racing against the clock. Again. My first attempt goes well, until the 3rd Deadeye shot just one-shots me. And a weird part of me thought that as a tank, I may stand a better chance. And while I can tank more of the Deadeyes, my DPS is nowhere near enough to down the boss before the stacks overwhelm me. Back to balance. And the hope starts dwindling before my eyes, but then it happens. I start to pull off with an insane opener, doing more than 1k DPS with my new Mage Fused Trinket and the Racial and Celestial alignment. The first shot comes in and I tank it like a champ. Back to DPSing. Soon after the second shot comes in, I shift into bear form and it misses? Apparently you can dodge these shots. No damage, no stack, just RNG from time to time. But no time to waste. Back to DPSing. And as the next shot comes in, we are back into bear form, surviving the shot. The 4th shot comes in shortly after. I go into bear form, pop bark skin. This is the moment of truth and I live. It is all or nothing now. My trinket is back off cooldown. Maple, Birch and John are up, and soon after, Korgus falls. Another dungeon off the list. But did we get the trinket? Unfortunately, we're not as lucky this time. And as this trinket requires quite some RNG to get right now, I decide to leave the cannonball meme aside for now. I head back to questing, to really make a dent into this enchanting grind. As I make my way through BFA's quests, gathering enchanting mats, I do find myself some janky mechanics in Vol'dun. You see, the food on this table gives a well-fed buff, and according to the tooltip, it's supposed to be 53 versatility. However, When looking into my stats, I actually got 750 versatility. Unfortunately, this only works inside of Vol'dun, but it does mean that I should not let myself get tricked by tooltips. Great, now everything with a bad tooltip could be secretly OP. We finish up Vol'dun by taking care of fake Thor, and end up assembling the Low Avengers to take care of Athena in Nazmir. And lastly, we witness the king committing murder in his own kingdom. What we let these royals get away with nowadays. And with my bags filled up and an enchanting spree later, we make it to level 60 enchanting, which unlocked the last few weapon enchants available for me here. There are some more ring enchants I can grab by leveling further, but that will be one hell of a grind, as I need veiled crystals from disenchanting epics, and epics are not as easy to come by for now. The unlocked weapon enchants are the navigation ones, which buff a particular secondary stat, although I'm skeptical about the numbers versus the tooltip. Torrent of the Elements gives me 10% elemental spell damage proc, but I don't really know if that works for boomkin spells. Siphoning gives Leech, and Gale Force Striking increases my attack speed by 15%. Now, with all of the quests completed, and the trinkets I won locked behind RNG, and for now unbeatable bosses, we set sail to Kulturas one last time, to finish a quest that has intrigued me for a while now. Mechagon. Mechagon was home to a special trinket back in BFA, the pocket-sized computation device. This could slot 3 punch cards, which gave a wide variety of special effects to you as a character. And after finishing the initial quests, we finally unlock it, and it too requires level 50. Another item for the bank for now. We leave BFA behind us for now, and head back into the Legion expansion. And bored of questing, I took a look at my trinket log first. And Legion has 6 more trinkets on my most wanted list, with 3 of them dropping in Blackrook Hold, so that will be my first stop. The trinkets I'm after are the Caged Horror, as the damage proc is noted to do 1.7k damage AoE, the Ember of Nullification because this can silence casters. I'm not sure if this will ever come in handy, but it may be in these situations. And the Spiked Counterweight. This one does a ton of damage and increases my damage done further as well. So let's go to Blackrook Hold and try our luck. The Amalgam of Souls is quite simple, just dodge out of the way of his cleaves and his sights and you're A-OK. Unfortunately, you have to kill some rough trash packs in here, which is not the smoothest experience as a boomkin, but eventually we make our way through to Ilisana Ravencrest. For this one, I just need to make sure I am healed up when the tank busters come in, and when she flies off, the damage drops off a cliff, so I can get some decent DPS in. We then stealth our way to Smashbite the Hateful, another boss who hits hard first and asks no questions later. A combination of heavy melee attacks and the tank buster increasing my damage taken, I barely get by and have to make a run for it to restore mana and get some healing in. I dip, duck and dive into bear form for additional healing, and with little mana left, I barely take down Smashbite. One boss left, Lord Ravencrest himself. First, we fight Kurtalos, and he hits hard as well. Plus, he has friends around the room throwing rocks at me. We blow him up and keep ourselves healthy, and once he's down, he spawns Dantalion X, the real boss. Dantalion X hits really hard and has some really nasty casts and dots to throw out. However, after engaging him for about 20 seconds, you get a massive healing, health and damage done buff for the remainder of the fight. And with this buff, we breeze through to the end of the fight, where we are unfortunately not rewarded with the trinket. At least we know it is possible, so I put my grinding boots on and start farming these trinkets. Until after a couple of Dantalion X kills, we get the Caged Horror. And 10 or so runs later, we are also rewarded for our grinding by getting the Spiked Counterweight as well. But let's quickly jump to Live Dan to explain. Look at that beauty. 19 haste and my melee attacks have a chance to proc 2.3k damage and an extra 1400, which in comparison to the caster trinket I have now, does 1.7k damage to everyone in front of me, given its AoE. This one does almost double that. Single target. Insane. Insane. After getting these trinkets, I farmed the Ruby Whelp Shell from Ruby Life Pools to start training my own dragon, and the infinitely divisible Ooze Trinket from Plaguefall before calling it a day on the trinket farming for now, and preparing for the next part of my adventure, where we will look further into Enchanting. But also, I think it's time to make a real dent in this list of dungeons, don't you? And maybe we will even see a raid in there? I hope you really enjoyed the video, and that I will see you again in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember, bye-bye!